folks. Welcome to Between Awesome and Disaster. This is your host, Will Carey. I hope you're having a good day, and I appreciate you tuning in. I'm super excited for today's episode because on the show today I have Schaffer The Darklord. I've been a fan of his for a number of years. I remember when I was just beginning in college, a friend of mine turned me on to Nerdcore, and he turned me on to MC Lars, and then Megaran and some of these other rappers, and then he also turned me on to Schaffer The Darklord. And a couple weeks ago, I went to a show that MC Lars and Schaffer The Darklord were doing in Bushwick, and I was super lucky to be able to get to talk with both of them. And I asked Schaffer if he would do the show, and he said yes. So I'm super excited to be able to talk to him, and it was a really great conversation. And it turns out we have a lot in common, which when you are familiar with someone's body of work, as I am with his, and you feel like you kind of relate to the person in the song, and then you also relate to the person just in conversation. It was a pretty great chat, and I'm really excited to share it with you. So look forward to that. Also, real quick, this episode's coming out on Tuesday, May 8th. If you are in New York City, I will be recording my first comedy storytelling EP Wednesday, May 9th at the Sidewalk Cafe at 8 p.m. It's going to be me, Mark Abbott, Anita Flores, and David Lawson are also going to be on the bill. Starts at 8 p.m. It's a no-cover show, and if you guys can make it, your last will help the recording sound great. So I hope you guys can come out. Also, let me tell you guys what I've been up to. There was no episode last week. I was actually in Las Vegas, traveling with my girlfriend because she's out doing the big work at her job, and she had a convention in Vegas. So why not go along for the ride? And of all the things I did in Vegas, I had ate a lot of really great food. I turned 32 when I was out there. It was my birthday, and had a great meal at Gordon Ramsay's steak restaurant. Not that he needs any more publicity, but something I do want to make sure I tell you guys about is a new show that's in Vegas. It's a show called Carl LeBeouf's Stripped. It's at Bally's. I believe it's every night except Wednesday. And if you're listening to this and you live in Las Vegas, or you're going to be in Las Vegas, I'd recommend checking it out. Carl LeBeouf, if you don't know, is a legendary veteran comic. He's incredibly funny. He's a great storyteller. One of the nicest guys I've ever met. And, he used to tour with Sam Kinison and the Outlaws of Comedy and Bill Hicks. And you can also, if you aren't aware, you can listen to episode 151 of Mark Maron's podcast, and he tells, they have a great conversation. But his new show in Vegas called Stripped is very Las Vegas themed. I was there a day and a half when I saw it, and I got it all. It doesn't take... Las Vegas kind of just throws everything that you expect it is at you, because that's exactly what it is. Everything you think Las Vegas is, that's exactly what that city is. So I had a great time at Carl LeBeouf's show. So that's something I would definitely recommend checking out at Bally's Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas. I believe every night except Wednesday. I'll have a link in the bio. And again, I thank you guys for listening. So if you enjoy this chat with Schaffer The Darklord, and May 9th, if you're able to come out to the Sidewalk Cafe to see me perform, I would greatly appreciate it. And you guys are the best. So thank you very much. And let's go to my chat with Schaffer The Darklord. Like, I don't know, like, how, and I hate to use the label that you guys all hate, like, nerdcore rappers get started. Like, the way rap is always depicted in, like, movies is that you come up doing rap battles, and then you can get a record deal, and you get noticed from doing rap battles, or you take, I was talking with MC Lars about this a little bit, you take the Insane Clown Posse route, and you just DIY it, and you get in the van, and everyone hates you, and then you find the people that love you for no matter what.
Yeah, the coming up a battle rapper thing is kind of a trope. I think in this particular scene that I've run around in all this time, it's that trope has been replaced by just you join an internet group and you release a couple of songs that you made in GarageBand, and a couple of strangers say they like you, and that's kind of how it starts building.
Yeah,
it all starts with some kind of online acceptance from strangers.
Yeah,
which is kind of a version of battle rapping, except it requires a little less skill and especially grace under pressure.
Yeah. Maybe a little bit like less improv and ability to rhyme off the bat, and a little more. It's more one-sided, and then you build your audience from your house, and then you go to where they happen to be.
Yeah, and the element of the battle rapping that's been replaced, where it used to be you just have to have really sharp, clever punchlines in your freestyles, and that is kind of in this. And again, I'm only speaking to this scene that I've kind of been a part of.
Totally.
It, you get you get heat by
you get fire
references.
Yeah. Oh no, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like I imagine you and I kind of have a lot of overlap in that regard. Like,
sure.
When I was like first starting and like in moving into like the alternative rooms and like your back rooms in Brooklyn when I first moved to New York, and it's like reference on top of reference on top of reference. What is the most, if you can reference like season 1, episode 3, Doctor Who, that is like, not even a joke, just a reference to it, and you're good to go. I imagine your scene's probably similar.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. It's great when you can connect with an audience because they get that reference. They get that season 1, episode 3 reference. And then you feel like this kind of camaraderie with strangers because you went deep cut and they acknowledged it. But as time wears on, if it's entirely built upon that, then it's really just pandering, and it's actually a pretty easy way to get a response. If you go to where your people are, where your audience is, and you come in and you might have like a bunch of half-baked material, as long as you land that obscure Firefly reference and they get it, and it's easier to make people laugh at references than it is to make them laugh at observations, because you'll get the people who want you'll get the people who will laugh and applaud louder, not just because you said a thing that they know, but because there's this part in them deep down that wants to let the people around them who didn't get it know that they got it.
Right.
Like you want to make it your membership in this secret society known by like just really going and kind of looking around. Oh, you didn't get it, you civilians. But that makes it really easy for a performer to just go in and just stack your deck with like a bunch of references if you're playing to like a niche audience.
Yeah. Same way, like if you're like Friday night second show, you can go and you're gonna go up and do a bunch of riffs about what are you drinking, or your shirt looks stupid, or sex or drugs or whatever. It's all like there's like the 12-bar blues to anything.
Sure.
That you can find. But I always sort of like that. So it's like I'm not something that I think about a lot more lately in terms of like performance and trying, and because I've tried to move away from those like super specific reference and try to relate to people on like a human level, which is hard for me. I found, I don't know if you ever
I feel like that's another common trait that we have, that, or at least as far as our art career path has traveled.
Yeah,
is that I found a way to really connect with this niche audience really quickly by giving them a bunch of references to things that they know. And after a while, I started feeling it was kind of cheap and pandering, and I wanted to connect with them on more universal and emotional levels, which is harder because you don't know if everybody's going to share these same experiences. But like you said, it's harder.
Yeah, it's harder. But then I find those people that you connect with on that way, they're going to be your fans forever, I think.
Oh yeah, if you get in there, if you can slide in there and you connect with them and you say something deep that hits them right in the heart.
Oh yeah, I live for that kind of stuff. Like I experienced something like that. like every so often, but when I like hit something, I'm like, this is my thing, and I must get everything about it. Like, oh, I love this TV show. I'm gonna start reading the books for the next season before it comes out because it's anime and it takes 5 years.
yeah.
for next season to come out.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, but the thing with even when you're doing like more specific references, that's all still like a part of you. And I granted, we've only known each other for like had 2 encounters, but that's all. Like, I mean, it would be different if you were like, if you like took the suit off when you got from the show and like just put on like a Yankees hat and were just like, now I'm comfortable.
Right. Yeah, it's. I mean, it's still all very sincere, and the things that I do when I do make pop culture references, which are becoming fewer, but when I make them, they're the ones that I just can't resist because they're things that are consuming my time and energy that I don't. I found that there were times in the past I would go out and I would absolutely just shoehorn a Star Wars joke in for the sake of having a Star Wars joke, whereas now I try to avoid Star Wars jokes, but I will make a reference to a television or movie or comic book series because I think it really works there, and also because I just sometimes just can't help myself. I just
I'm
gotta get one in.
Exactly. I'm absolutely the same way, because if you love the thing, you want to find the people who also love the thing.
Sure.
Yeah.
And it's this great kind of, like, it's like sending out a bat signal to the audience, because then you can find out like, oh, I found you, Firefly enthusiast. Now I know who I'm playing to.
Yeah, absolutely. Or if when I was at your show, when you do the what's that song called?
One Fall.
Mm-hmm. And I was like, I'm gonna shout ECW at him at the end of the song. I was like, no, I live for that kind of stuff.
I opened, and you just walked right into that trap, because I put the wrestling song at the top of the set, because by starting the song in the manner of a professional wrestling ring announcer,
which is brilliant. By the way.
Wrestling fans' ears like prick up and they turn, and they can't help but like echo the One Fall line, or they can't help but shout some reference to ECW, or somebody yelled out like Eric Bischoff rules like one night, and it just accidentally got you all to like identify yourselves, so I know where to point when I later make some Ric Flair reference. I know who's going to like gobble it up.
Yeah, it's such a great way of doing like almost like a radar on your audience without being obvious about it, because I remember like when I started listening to you and like Lars and MC Friend a lot, and all of your homies, I've decided that you're all friends. I don't know if that's actually true, but like I remember I was living in Baltimore, and I had just started doing stand up, and I was doing it in the bar of a chain bar and grill, and it was just me and like my couple of other friends, and they were into like Firefly and all that stuff too, and my friend and one of my friends was like, oh, you got to check out Schaffer The Darklord, and I was like, I think it was the Rapist was the first song, and then the other thing, this might be a bit of a deep cut. Do you know a comic named Rob Provonian?
Oh, I do, but I know his name.
So he used to do these like little like life as a comic videos, and there was some show that you guys were all on, like a music comedy show at a soccer bar that's been closed for like years, but the show like almost didn't happen because everyone got to the bar and it was closed, and so Joshua Grossman had to call the owner. Yeah. Another guy I've never met, but I just know him from those videos.
Mm-hmm. And Baron Vaughn. Baron Vaughn
yes, he was.
The two of them produced that show, yeah.
Yeah, so you were like, so you've been, so there's like overlap with you and like the comedy scene in New York. I'm curious, like, I kind of want to trace this, because I feel like nerdcore and comedy seem to have like a lot of overlap. There's like they're like rubbing up against each other. They're like eyeing each other at the dance, but they're still waiting for like I'm trying to think of what the best example of the song to slow dance to would be, but probably like some obscure like Japanese pop song.
Sure, or any of maybe the thing that brings them out to the dance floor is any of the quality sort of comedy music, and that's it's worth noting the qualifier of quality.
Quality, yes.
Because comedy music as a genre is something that kind of makes my skin crawl a little bit, because I feel it's often unfinished comedy paired with unfinished music.
I agree with you. I've also seen too many comedy songs at open mics with untuned guitars, and it drives me batty. So I'm very particular. So I kind of want to trace this. First of all, where are you from?
I grew up in the middle of nowhere in a rural farm town in Iowa, in a town of like 1,800 people.
Oh, nice. What was your town called? Because I can relate to this. I'm from a town in Maryland of like 800.
Oh wow! It was a town called Corning. It was the state's crop as a verb. I realized that as I grew up, like it's just they just get really lazy when they were populating that part of the Great Plains. They were like,
right.
We're probably gonna do a lot of corning out here. Oh, excellent, done. Moving along.
They just took a look around and just made what they saw a verb.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of towns like that in that part of the country.
Oh, I would imagine so. So Iowa.
Yeah.
So small town Iowa. What are you an only child? Do you have siblings?
I have an older half brother, but he's 10 years older, and he was off at college by the time I was kind of
So you guys weren't like super close. So kind of an only child for like your formative years.
Yeah, for the formative years. And in fact, in growing up in a household with a single mother too. So it was just two people.
Oh yeah. And so it's just basically you and mom.
Yeah.
I had that later on. My dad's split when I was in high school, kind of epically.
Oh wow.
That's why I have a one-man show. That's one of my jokes. is I say I think every one-man show should just start. If it was Wednesday, that meant Dad was drinking, and in my house every day was Wednesday.
Oh, it hurts.
So did you have like that too? Did you know your dad? Or
I did. Yeah, he. When my parents split up when I was I think I was 4 or 5 when we split up, and he had alcohol and drug problems. And he, as I approached my early adolescence, he went to rehab and got cleaned up, and like really turned his life around, became this great man, and then ultimately just kept pursuing this career path until he became a professional substance abuse counselor.
That is the ultimate full circle.
Yeah, he went all the way. I mean, he I think the story as he told it is he got sober. His day he started his 12-step program was my 10th birthday. And
good day to start being sober.
Yeah. And I grew up, years later being just a total mess. I put so much of this material in my songs about my long and storied history with drug and alcohol abuse, and it's very. I just find it's very ironic that my dad was a counselor for this all the time. He was always a presence in my life. He still lived in Iowa. He moved to another town. He remarried. I've been very close with my stepmother ever since I was a little kid. So he wasn't absent. He was there. I just didn't live with him.
Right. Yeah. That is the most effective substance abuse training, though. If you can just almost lose everything and then pull it back.
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes and I'm not a professional in any way, but you ever there's advice or counseling and you maybe aren't super hip to because you're you don't know what my life is like, or you don't know what I'm going through. That's the ultimate example of oh no, in fact I do know what you're going through, and in fact I did the same thing that you're going through right now.
Oh yeah,
and you don't have to.
Yeah, I find it there's something really suspect about people who have sort of never had those problems who go into that line of work, that there's you're just this noble creature who decided I'm going to help people that have problems that I couldn't possibly understand. It would be difficult to take sort of guidance from those folks.
Yeah, who have never been affected by it, or have had to deal with it. And Okay. Okay. So, and what did your mom do? What was?
She had a whole bunch of jobs. She worked as a dental technician. She made dentures. She was always very artistic. She always would have some sort of job that would pay the bills and support us, but then all of her energy would always be focused into some sort of artistic endeavor. So making these dentures with these little fake teeth and these strips of pink wax and molding them was something that she was perfect for. When I was in high school, she started sculpting these original ceramic dolls, like these baby dolls. So she would sculpt them out of clay, and then she would make molds. She had a couple of kilns set up in our kitchen, and she would have one where she would like fire the ceramic, and then the other one she would hand paint them, and then she would fire them, and they would have glass eyes, and she would hand sew the costumes, and they were amazing. And she was very, very talented.
Yeah.
It was incredibly creepy at the same time, because I'd bring my friends over so we could take bong hits in the garage when she was out of town, and then they would come into the kitchen, and there'd be these utility shelves just covered in like white eyeless baby heads, like unpainted, just raw porcelain. And I feel that like the kind of the big influence career-wise that I got from her is that she spent her whole life working some kind of job, some kind of office job, just as a means to an end, and then would just use all of her free time to pursue artistic endeavors. And I feel like I've kind of always done that.
Same.
Among my peers, I spend a lot of time touring, but I'm the only one of my peers who does a lot of touring who has a regular day job.
Right.
And I just go to that job because I like to eat sushi and take cabs in New York.
Right.
And it gives me the sort of comfort to do that. But then every second that I'm not there, I'm trying to kill the pain of that experience by hanging out in my vocal booth and recording rap songs.
Yeah. You record in your apartment?
Mm-hmm. I do all the vocal recording in my apartment. And then I work with a number of different producers. I'm going to send a shout out because one of the main producers that I work with is a guy named Vince Vandal from Baltimore.
Nice.
And he builds the beats on his end, and I record the vocal stems on my end and do all the kind of editing there and send them to him, and then he does the mixing.
Nice. So and this leads into some of my questions about how rap is made compared to, because I played in bands mostly, so I'm very familiar with that process. Mm-hmm. But the creation of rap is still kind of a mystery to me. So you have producers that you work with, and then so you're like, are you like Eminem? Do you have like a stack of lyrics and rhymes there, or do you just kind of like, do you have lyrics of songs and you're like, this is kind of what I'm seeing musically for this?
It's changed over the years. It used to be, before I moved to New York, I lived in San Francisco for 6 years. And I feel like at that time, I was younger and I was just cocaine wrapped in skin. So I was...
When were you in San Francisco?
That was 98 to 2004.
Oh, okay.
And I just had stockpiles of rhymes, and they weren't very good, but I was just constantly writing, and I would have notebooks just full of them. And so when I would either build a beat or get a beat from a producer, I would just kind of go through and be like, oh, this song,
yeah,
and do that. And I don't do that anymore. Now I wait until I get a beat and see if I can, and see if it inspires me, if it invokes a feeling or an emotion to craft a theme.
Yeah, sort of like where it puts your head. Yeah, puts you in your head mentally. That makes total sense to me.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I mean, when I was younger, I feel that it was much easier for me, and maybe it's because I was writing. I think a lot of the material I was writing was more hacky back then, and I think now I take a lot more care in it, but almost to a fault, where it takes me. Like, I have peers who are like dropping an EP every other month, and it just blows my mind that they could do it that quickly, because I write and rewrite and rewrite and rewrite and rewrite, and then throw out an entire verse and start over and write and rewrite and demo it and then rewrite and record it again. And so it takes a while, and I don't want to invest in that journey unless I know it's a premise that I believe in with the way it pairs with the music.
That makes total sense. Same with like jokes, like my friends who like just tweet constantly or like have these off the cuff thoughts about topical stuff. my best topical stuff I think of 3 weeks after the thing has happened.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I'm best. So I can relate to that. And like I like to, craft an idea or something that, or like when I was writing, when I was like more actively pursuing music. Early on, it took me I was very hard to collaborate with because I was sort of like, this is how it goes. Please play it this way and do not deviate from what I am saying. I have gotten much better about saying, hey, this is a thing. I was thinking about this. And then someone going, oh, well, what if we did it like this? I'm like, oh, that's cool. That part of it evolves as well. But I hear what you're saying because I was listening to Mark the Beast on my way back, listening to Nerdlust, that great song. So like,
Thank you.
feeling that like the stuff on that album especially has like a lot of deep bass grooves, and yeah, I don't know how you wrote that song, but I could definitely there's a definite dark sensuality to that riff that I think could inspire a nerdy lust song.
Oh, thank you. I mean, and yeah, I got that one was definitely, well, it was a combination of things. It was a premise that I had wanted to write. And then I waited until I got the right beat. Now, back before I had met Vince Vandal, I was either making beats myself or getting it from a whole bunch of people. That album is like a quilt. It's just like little scraps that I got from all over the place. I used to mostly work with a guy named Dave Famous from California, and he made that beat. But like looking back on it, like I had started this act in a very with a very punk rock ethos, because before I had done a rap act, I had spent years as a drummer in punk rock and metal bands.
Oh, I was gonna ask you that, if what you started as.
Yeah.
So if I could kind of trace this real quick, and then I want to get back to that. So you're this kid growing up in rural Long Island with just your mom, essentially an only child. I imagine there's some kind of a lot of what you become gets set early on that in that, as you're kind of like discovering like things you like. What were some of those things, and what leads you to music?
Oh, wow. It was the first 5 years of my life, because I was born in the 70s. So the first, I should say more like the first 7 years of my life, the only memories I really have are all about Star Wars. That's all I have. That was it. My life existed to see or think about or touch things that were Star Wars. That was it.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's been it's been an influence in some way. I don't know exactly what it is, but it's there somehow.
I'm trying to think about that, and like, because my best friend in the entire world is like that. Lives and breathes Star Wars, and I didn't get into Star Wars until I was 9, but then I got into it hard. There's something about there, especially, and I feel like if you're from a small town, especially, there's a quality to the epic adventure that Star Wars, the characters in Star Wars kind of are on, and it's building this universe and this world, and there's all this mystical stuff that is not what your normal day-to-day is like.
Sure.
So it's kind of capturing that imagination in like a formative age.
Yeah, it's a simple story, but with like these epic swells that like, you keep the story simple, but you like ramp it up and maybe slow it down and then punch it back up again. And I maybe it was that kind of intangible element of it.
Yeah,
this thing that I got. I have a lot of from my childhood. I have so many moments that would be suitable to be recreated in a sepia tone as an opening scene if there were a biopic made of my life, that are like these defining moments that like that like basically groomed me to this point. Like one of them, I was a kid. I was like 8 years old, and I remember my dad, and this is before he got sober, and looking back, it seems incredibly inappropriate, but also perfectly appropriate. My dad made me cassette copies of all of his George Carlin records, because he was
nice.
He was like, he'd been a Vietnam vet and was like pothead, and like it was those years, and George Carlin was just right in there for him. He had this kind of caustic sense of humor, and it was perfect. And so he made these, and I got them, and like, you know, I would only really understand about 30% of the material, but it was all hilarious to me. Even the material I didn't get until I was a grown up, and I would just listen to these endlessly and memorize them and perform them for my friends. And that would definitely be a scene in my biopic.
Yeah.
Me sitting there doing scenes from like, you know, Class Clown or Operation Fool for a bunch of third graders on the playground and trying to not get in trouble. That's swearing.
That's awesome. That first exposure to some sort of like thinking outside of the way the news says or what have you. That's sort of like
childhood is, I think, inherently a sheltered experience, but I feel like growing up in a cornfield pre-internet made it especially alienating. And this was my first exposure to kind of challenging thinking and humor.
You're like Clark in that, or you're like Superman. You're just in that cornfield and then you just crash land.
Yeah, kind of what happened. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that. No, man, that makes so much sense. You got that like for that first thing,
and then it just didn't stop. And then it was in '84.
What's the next thing? What's the next?
Delirious came out on HBO.
Yes.
So it's all of the comedians of the '80s and Sam Kinison and I just. If there was a stand-up special or one of those Rodney Dangerfield specials or
so like Bill Hicks,
all of it, like especially Bill Hicks, just the unhinged, ranting, angry, strangely progressive tirades.
Yeah,
it just hit something.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The It's Just a Ride. I was in Vegas last week and I am kind of buddies with Carl LeBove, who's one of the Outlaws. Mm-hmm. He's got a residency in Vegas now, and he was telling me like, oh, I've been coming to Vegas since '75, and then because he used to open for Sam Kinison. That guy's awesome. He's like one of the few. I think maybe Jimmy Pineapple's still alive, but I don't know if he's doing too many shows. But yeah, that whole group, especially. So we got Star Wars, we got excellent stand-up comedy. I'm curious, musically, what comes in it for you? Because you said you started in punk and metal as a drummer.
Yeah.
Any autobiographical qualities to the Black Flag cover band in Bitter Musician?
No, not.
I'm sorry, I don't mean for this to just be me referencing your songs.
I made a reference to a Black Flag cover band because I didn't want to make it entirely about me, but I have played in a number of costumed tribute bands. I played drums in a.
What did this start?
Like
drums in the bands, but you said Ramones cover band.
That came later.
Okay.
Let's see. My brother was a big influence on that because my brother, he loved rock and roll and he had a big record collection too. And I thought my brother was so cool. He went off to college when I was 9 years old. So I would his records were left behind. So I remember the big ones from his record collection that I just would listen to endlessly were Nevermind the Bollocks by Sex Pistols and the first Black Sabbath record. Just. Over and over and over and over. And then he would come back from college later and then he was, like a undergraduate. So he'd start getting into all this like the cool, edgy, like back in the 80s when they called it college music. When Rolling Stone in the back would have a college music chart. And that's where you would find like Husker Du and
The Replacements.
The Replacements, exactly. So he would come back and he'd bring me these tapes. But I feel like it was really that Black Sabbath record, like just kind of turned me online. By the time I got to fourth grade is when they first started letting the grade school students take up instruments in band. And I just was right away like, I want to play drums. So I got my little snare drum and tapped away on it. And I did that all through high school, like marching band, jazz band, concert band, the whole bit. And until I don't think I got to actually play, rock music with other people my age in a kind of a band configuration until my senior year of high school. And so early on we're looking at punk and like so
so Ramones. I heard Ramones earlier. What are some of these tribute bands? Because I'm imagining like your musical education.
Well, the tribute bands came later. When I went to college,
Where'd you go to college?
The University of Iowa.
Nice. So you stay at state school, state local.
I did. I was a little afraid to fly too far away from the coop, but even then, I don't think that there's anybody who considers Iowa City, Iowa, like going to the city.
I know exactly.
It's a college town, and I got there, and I was so overwhelmed. There was so much sensory overload. Like when I had been a teenager, I would have to drive with my friends 100 miles in either direction to either go to Des Moines, Iowa, or Omaha, Nebraska, so that we could go see rock bands. Because we wouldn't get that there, so we would drive out there and we would see we'd go to this like kind of small rock club, and we saw like Bad Brains and Rollins Band and 7 Seconds, and like I just saw all of these amazing shows in my teenage years, but they were all. It was a treat. It was a rare thing that we got to do. I got to college, and it's a destination city for touring bands, and all of a sudden, like I live in a town where there's record stores and there's comic book stores and head shops and there's rock clubs, and I can play in a band and people want to have sex and there's drugs, and it was too much. Like I came there this like very gifted student with a bright future, and I just like collapsed under the weight of my own excitement and overstimulation.
Yeah, just we're like, I must have it all. I am king for a day.
Yeah,
I had a very similar. I can relate to that so much because I went from like population of 800, takes an hour to drive to the mall. I didn't see a live band play until I was maybe, I think, a sophomore in high school, and it was like local punk rock bands playing at like the Armory or the Rec Center. I didn't see like a big concert until I was a junior or senior, and it was a Perfect Circle in Virginia, which was a really fun show.
But even that first band that you saw at the Rec Center or whatever, the first time you saw live people playing rock music, and you hadn't heard it, you're not hearing it off a cassette tape, but you're seeing them in person.
You're seeing them strum guitars.
You know that you find out that like, oh, when they hit the kick drum, I can feel it in my sternum, or you can hear like the snares bouncing off the walls, or the bass is like really.
Oh no! The first time I was at a big rock club and I felt the bass was mind blowing.
Yeah,
like, that. And I'm still Facebook friends with that guy. That changed my life.
Yeah, I think it was the first time I saw some like local band in Omaha one time, and we just went because it was rock and roll, and it just it opened up this whole like new portion of my brain that hadn't really been awake.
Yeah, it's important. It's important to have those. I think otherwise, if you don't have those, I feel like Iowa, and definitely maybe my part of town also, because there's some teachers that have been busted for some unsavory things in my neck of the woods. There's that sort of darkness that creeps on you if you don't find that thing. But for me, it was the first time I heard "What's My Age Again." I was like, how do you make that sound? Oh, a guitar and power chords. Okay, I want to learn both of those things. So, yeah, and going to college, like the first time, did you ever play the Recker Theater in Baltimore or Towson?
What is it?
The Recker Theater. It's in Towson, Maryland.
I don't think so.
I think it's a nightclub or a hookah bar now, but it was this awesome concert venue that had like my second day in college, and might not be a cool band to have seen, but I saw Shinedown, and again, heavy guitars in person. It was like, whoa, there's an entire other world. And I could walk to a Barnes & Noble, or, sushi will be delivered to my dorm room. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I don't just have to eat macaroni and cheese for the rest of my life.
You're like Templeton the Rat. Like
basically
just gobbling up all the scraps everywhere, anything that you can get your hands on.
Yeah.
And it's just everywhere all of a sudden.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have this too, and it crushes you.
Oh yeah. I went to college on this amazing scholarship, which I lost my first year.
Oh, what did you major in?
Communications.
I could see that.
I eventually got my act together and finished, but in that first year, I met a bunch of these other musicians, and we started a band, and my whole life, like throughout college, was like my only priority was this band, and we were in this band for 10 years. We moved to California together. We put out a bunch of records.
What was the band called?
Bottle Dog.
Is that stuff still available?
No, I can't really. I looked for it. I don't know. It's probably about a year ago to see if any of it was online, and I can't find it anywhere. I have a bunch of the records. It was.
Do you have anything you can email me?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh great.
It was like kind of like crazy art rock, genre hoppy.
Is this when you were in Is this when you're in San Francisco?
Yeah, it was like 5 years in Iowa and 5 years in San Francisco. And the only reason the band stopped, I think, is because I quit the band because I moved to New York.
To New York.
And we were just done then.
Okay. And you were playing drums in that band.
Yeah.
And then did you start performing as Schaffer the Darklord in New York?
No, I started that in San Francisco too.
What brings about your interest in rap music, and specifically the kind of rap that you do? Because what was your frame of reference for the, I'm going to say, kind of specific thing that like you and Lars and Frontalot do?
The thing that I'm going to go back to my biopic and rewind back before the credits there.
Of course.
There was when I was getting into rock and roll and I was still a kid, and I just loved the way electric guitars and screaming sounded, and it just felt so alive and exciting to me. I remember I have this very vivid moment of standing in my living room in front of the television when at this point, the Beastie Boys' License to Ill was out, and Fight for Your Right to Party had already been a single, and it was out, and it was very popular. And I thought it was cool. I wasn't like head over heels for it. I thought it was cool.
Yeah.
But I remember this moment standing in my living room when MTV premiered the music video for the follow-up single from that record, No Sleep Till Brooklyn. And
great song.
A part of my life ended and a new part began in that moment. I'm sure I just stood there slack-jawed in the glow of this old television set, and it just changed everything. There were these jackass clowns who were like rapping, but then there was like a guy on stage in this video playing an electric guitar, and there were drum beats and a guy in a suit of armor, and it was there wasn't a second, there wasn't a frame of that thing that I didn't love. Like they were funny. It was tough. It sounded like heavy metal, but it also sounded like this new thing, this rap thing that I had no experience with, being this white kid growing up in a cornfield
in Iowa. Yeah,
and that just I had a love of hip hop that started that day and just never stopped. So by the time I got to college and I was playing in this rock band, we were all just kind of, experimenting with different instruments and different styles of music, and we were all learning the very fundamentals of multi-track recording. We all lived together in a house. We had a recording studio in our basement with a bunch of instruments, and I would go down there, and we would all just like kind of work on this like noise rock stuff. But I was like secretly going down there and making rap songs because I'm like, I now have the means to do this thing that I've loved secretly all these years.
Yeah,
and I was kind of embarrassed because we were all a bunch of pretentious college-age music snobs, and I thought they were going to think less of me if I wanted to go in the basement and pretend like I was Snoop Dogg. So I would come home. I had this job at a porn shop, and I would get off at 2 a.m, and I would come home and sneak down to the basement and quietly make rap songs by myself until I had like 30 songs. And one day I was like, "Hey guys, I got 30 of these rap songs."
And then did they accept you, or were you shamed?
No, they were into it. They kind of got involved. Like a couple of the guys made beats and did like cameos, but it was a lot more tongue in cheek for them. And this was all like really horrible material, but I was like, my heart and soul was poured into this terrible material. So when we moved to San Francisco, I kind of wanted to pursue it more, and I met another rapper there, and we started this rap group, and that was my first time really doing rap shows.
Where were you performing in San Francisco? I've been once for work, so I'm trying to map the city.
We were playing places like, I don't think any of them are there anymore. We played at, there was this art gallery in the Mission called Balazzo where we did some shows. There was a place also in the far Mission called El Rio.
Yeah.
Covered Wagon Saloon, Hemlock.
The Mission District was sort of like the hotbed for the for that scene. That makes sense. Mission District I always view as more of like the San Francisco equivalent of like Williamsburg or Brooklyn kind of.
So we did this for a while and we had fun, but the other MC in the group, my friend Rocco, like both of us wanted to be rappers, but we both kind of lacked the confidence to do it on stage. Like I had gone from being a guy who sat behind a set piece behind other musicians with guitars for all those years, and now I'm like, I'm going to be the only guy on stage in the front with a microphone, and I have ideas to put in a mic, and that was terrifying.
Oh no, yeah.
So we kind of did this for a while and realized we were awesome, and then
We were like, we are so dope.
yeah. And then as soon as we both had the realization, like, holy shit, we're great, I want to do my own stuff, and we both just went solo.
Yeah,
And that's when Schaffer the Darklord started.
nice. And how does the name come about? That was also the other thing when when I called MC Lars, because I'm going to have him on in a couple weeks, and his voicemail is Andrew, and I'm like, and when I emailed you, I was like, I know what his real name is. Do I call him Schaffer? Do I call him Mr. The Darklord?
Most people just call me Schaffer.
Schaffer.
Yeah,
Cool.
it is my last name, so it's fair.
And that's the point when the band split up. Did you have New York on your mind at that point?
Not yet. That was still a ways to come. Like the first thing that I did, and this is how I got into comedy, was at that time I was going to now be doing this. I had a little confidence because I'd been doing it with a partner on stage, and now I'm going to be pursuing this as the only thing on stage. I just did not have the confidence that my act, that no matter how good I thought my songs were, that it was not going to be enough to keep an audience's interest. So I started going to comedy open mics just to learn how to do like kind of transitional material.
Right.
And there were a bunch of open mics in San Francisco that I went to obsessively.
Yeah. Did you ever do Brainwash?
I did Brainwash.
I've done Brainwash.
Every Thursday without fail for a solid calendar year.
Nice.
And sometimes I'd go in and I'd draw 3 and be like, great. And sometimes it would be 30 and it would be awful.
I'm so glad that we shared this.
Yeah.
Because when I was in San Francisco, I went out to Brainwash.
When did you go to San Francisco?
I was there in last October.
Then that's good to know that it's still around, because I left San Francisco in 2004.
Yeah, it's still around, and it happens on multiple nights. I think I don't think I was there on a Thursday. I was definitely there on Tuesday or Wednesday, so it's definitely happening. And I sat in my corner, and I had my drink, and I was watching the laundry and the pinball, and I was like, I've only been in this city for a few days, but somehow I know this makes sense for this city.
Yeah, it absolutely did. I had a few nights where I would use every service that Brainwash would offer. I would go there, I would get dinner, I would do my laundry, I would play video games and pinball, I would do a set, and then I would get beers. Like I would do.
You would utilize. You were like every part of the animal is being.
And I would do a terrible set. Mike, when I was doing stand up in those days, I was just.
Were you
just
trying
awful.
to be? Were you trying to like? Because like I found when I started doing stand up again, similar thing. I was in bands. My last band, the singer actually went to college in Iowa. Interestingly enough, and. My bassist was still in high school, and I found out he was a pathological liar, and I couldn't meet any other drummers that were not into just Slipknot and aggressive double bass. And I was trying to be the next Tom DeLonge. So I was like, stand-up comedy. I'm gonna
naturally. That's
of course, because I was like, I can't sing well enough to be the next Dashboard Confessional. So because these are all of my points of reference. So I'm like, all right. I could drop in and I could drop into this open mic and do a couple of absurd one-liners. Again, terrifying, but it's like that switch. So I'm curious. I was very much aping like Mitch Hedberg when I started, as far as tone and like deadpan delivery system. So I'm curious, were you trying to like be George Carlin or Sam Kinison? I could see you trying to be like.
I was definitely trying to be Bill Hicks. I was trying to go in with.
He's a popular one.
Really kind of verbose and twisty, angry, pointed, but like still kind of brutal and offensive.
Yeah.
Like, material.
Did you wear the leather jacket?
No,
that's good.
I was just a dirtbag and t-shirts and ball cap.
Yeah, not like now. Now when you perform a Schaffer the Darklord, you got like a nice suit.
I always have a suit on.
Rubber gloves.
Yeah.
It's very you almost could be like when I saw you put on the black rubber gloves for one fall. I almost say go in and then with your like stage glasses in the dark and the purple, which I have a suit that's that color combination.
Oh, nice.
Also. It's a great color combination.
Yeah.
I almost imagine you could be like in the Nick, that show.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like there's a certain like classic quality to your stage manner.
I've always when I started, then after I did this comedy, started like doing the comedy open mics. By the time I did finally get my Schaffer the Darklord act on stage, I still didn't think it was going to be solid enough for an audience, and I thought it's got to have a gimmick. So I came on stage in a costume.
Yeah.
And I was coming from like years of experience of like there was no, I had not heard of Nerdcore yet. This is not a thing. This is like prior to that. So all of my material, like my songs and my jokes, were directed to people who had ever been in rock, or had ever been in rock bands. Mm-hmm. So it was jokes about shitty, unreliable drummers, or dickhead sound guys, or driving 100 miles to play to 5 people, or just like all of the like kind of nonsense you have to deal with being in like an indie band. Yeah. And it was called the Darklord because I came on stage and I basically wore like Norwegian black metal corpse paint. I had like spiked leather gauntlets, and I had a cape, and I had like I did all the corpse paint. And I was like, I felt like I was like, the samurais, they tie the ribbons on their swords to distract their opponent. I felt like I was doing that. Like, just throw everything that you're into this set. Yeah. And maybe somebody will like some part of it. And it didn't work, because I would watch videos of myself, and I would, do some like rap song about how your band sucks. And then afterwards, I'm trying to do some like observational comedy, and meanwhile, there's like just corpse paint streaming down my neck, and like it's not a good look. It's hard. You need your face as a comic. It just
right. No, I was like, if you did that now, I bet Psychopathic would put out an EP at least.
Oh, I could get on. I could get that thing released easily, just with the cover art alone.
Yeah, if I had an indie label, and I would be like, okay, how much money do I need to give you? Because I just need this to exist, and I want to be associated with it.
Yeah, it was. That part didn't last for long. I think it was only about maybe my first year, and then after that, I was like, it's too much, and I need to be able to have access to my face on stage. Yeah. And I decided I would wear a suit. I decided that I had to wear something. It didn't need to be over the top and exaggerated, but I felt it was important that I dressed differently than my audience.
Yeah, I could see that.
In not a way to create like kind of a separation. I felt like I needed to remind them, I'm going to talk about things you like, but we're different. I'm doing the thing and you're enjoying the thing. And I find it was, as much as I love like indie hip hop and love like punk rock and love that kind of
the everyman sort of work aesthetic.
Sure. And like when glam rock ended, and people weren't really like wearing, like feather boas on stage, that people, rock and roll became like t-shirts and jeans. You just look like the people were fans of it. Yeah. But I still like wanted that kind of old era of rock and roll. I just wanted to look different than my audience. I wanted to feel that there was a visual separation between us, and I've worn suits ever since. Well, with the variety, some of them, I mean, the early days, I was a young person. I didn't know how to wear a suit. I would buy these ill-fitting suits, and just they'd be filthy. And it wasn't until I got older and started getting like a variety of suits and learned the magic of tailoring and trying out different colors and accessories. But I've committed to wearing suits.
Yeah, committed to the style. I imagine that's hard during the summertime, but
it's hard during the summertime. It's hard on the road.
Trying to keep a suit nice when you're touring in a van and like doing dirty, like
you got to take a couple of them.
Dirty rock clubs, yeah.
And depending on how long the trip is, if it's any more than 3 weeks, there has to be like a dry cleaning break.
Got to get a dry cleaner in.
And it's also kind of frustrating because I'll tour with my other rap friends like Lars and Megaran and really all of the rap friends I've had over the years, and it's always been the kind of same experience. Like we go and we do this show and we hang out all night and sign stuff, and it's great, and then we finally get to the hotel and we're just exhausted and we just want to crash, and we can just walk into the hotel room, they just face plant on the bed. I need like another 30 minutes to like hang every individual item, because like it can't, like if you do it sloppy once, you start getting all wrinkled and you got to look crisp. So I'm making sure everything is hung, and then in the morning when we pack up, I got to have everything kind of pressed. I got to iron the shirt and the pants in the morning with the hotel ironing board. Yeah. It's a lot more work. And then in the summertime when these a-holes are jumping out of a van and they're like in shorts and sneakers and that's what they're going to be performing in later. It's very envious. But I'm not envious when I get the photos back.
Yeah.
Then I'm like, all right.
Yeah, because you were like, these are some good show photos.
Yes.
I look rock and roll.
Oh my goodness. Who's that guy on stage? And who's his kid brother who's up there doing a set before him? Oh, that was Lars. I love you, Lars.
Yeah, I love that like you and Lars are because I think of like you guys. I like that you guys are a crew the same way. Like I've got my group of friends in comedy and we all work on stuff. I like that you guys like tour together and work on things.
Yeah, it's we're an interesting yin and yang together because we work so well together on songs. We've done so many collaborations together, and we work so well as kind of colleagues on the road, which it really shouldn't make sense because he has this
here's how I'll interpret it watching. First off, doing the zombie thing with you guys, that was a ton of fun at Gold Sound. I'm imagining like the couple times I've seen MC Lars live, there's almost this sort of like buoyant, fun energy. And I'm not saying that you aren't fun to watch live, but and I'm going to cite the Enthusiastic Consent song. I know it's called Yes. I just like calling it the Enthusiastic Consent.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Because and I noticed, I think compared to the studio track, a lot heavier live. It's a different
version.
You have a different version.
There's a remix that was made by my friend DJ Robo Rob, and I released it on mixtape I put out last fall, but I only do that version of it live now.
Yeah, that's a killer version live. And then there's a certain, and I'm citing specifically that sort of like, because we talked a little bit about this at the merch table, that there's that sort of like Bill Hicks sort of like, if I imagine like if Bill Hicks were like, if you're still alive, like maybe how he would feel, sort of like, you fucking idiots. It should not be this hard to get. This should not be a conversation we even have to have. So just do it like this. And then everyone's like, yeah. Schaffer the Darklord.
It's nice that they respond to being like, I also kind of miss an era when rock stars were dicks.
No one's really like that.
They're either
comedians
dicks.
Comedians are I feel there's more of a quality. Maybe mostly on Facebook from my experience, but no, rock stars, like there's no like. Well, there's no like bands that have that sort of like gruff edge to them the way like Guns N' Roses might have. Not that I think the closest might be like Five Finger Death Punch.
Okay. Or I'm even thinking like Mick Jagger and Prince. Like they had like really kind of accessible, fun material, but they were kind of notoriously dicks to their audience and being like, I'm going to do this thing now and you're going to like it because that's the contract. You love what I do and I don't have to sit here and like campaign for your approval.
Right. If you don't like it, you're the problem.
Yeah. You can leave. Everybody around you is loving this.
Yeah.
And I feel like I kind of adopted that to a degree. And so then working with Lars, he's got this like indomitable enthusiasm. And that shit doesn't stop when the show's over. Like you get in the van and drive up like 400 miles with him the next day. It goes all the way through. He is absolutely thrilled with everything, every opportunity that's handed to him. And it's inspiring, like how his kind of sunny outlook on things never wavers. I am just this exasperated crank all the time, and that really doesn't stop after the stage either. I'm just kind of. I feel like my face is just always kind of making a fist. Like I'm just always a little over something, but then I have a lot of fun doing all of this stuff, and so the two of us together shouldn't really work out as well as it does, but it really does. I feel like I take a bit of the Pollyanna edge off of him, and he takes a bit of the just grumpy old man off of me.
Yeah.
And in the middle somewhere, we become best friends.
Yeah. No, it's great to see. And like your chemistry when you guys perform together is just, you genuinely feel like, oh, they're friends and they're doing this show for us. And it's just really nice.
Yeah. And and I think, none of us really got, like, of my nerdcore friends, and I mean, Frontalot, Megaran, Tribe One, Lars, all of them.
Do you know Optimus Rhyme? Are you friends with
I
those guys?
I know of Optimus Prime. I've never actually met Wheelie Cyberman or any of them because they kind of stopped doing things right about the time that Nerdcore found me, which is what happened. I never decided like one day I'm going to write songs about video games.
Right.
There was this online bulletin board like group where Nerdcore was in its infancy and people were talking about it.
Were you in New York around this
Yeah,
time?
I'd moved. I think I'd moved to New York by the time. When I first heard of Nerdcore.
What made you want to move to New York?
I felt like there weren't a lot of if I was going to try to pursue a career as some kind of stage rat, either a musician or a comedian or some combination in a suit in between.
Yeah.
That there were going to be more opportunities for stage time for me in LA or New York.
Totally.
And
that's why I moved too.
Yeah. San Francisco was great, and it was a fun city. And again, I did mountains of cocaine. Gosh, those were great days. But the opportunities were like there were so many things that were just kind of like DIY art spaces or Fruitvale warehouses and things. And I really wanted to get more stage time in a city.
Yeah.
I could meet other like-minded fools.
And did you hit a point with the cocaine where you're like, oh fuck, I got to stop doing this, or did it just?
Yeah, I stopped it and then came to New York and then didn't do it for like a year and then just kind of found my way back and fell into it for like another couple of years. But I don't even have like a good I quit doing coke story. Like I feel like I just kind of hung out at rock bottom. I never had like this definitive moment where I like fell to it.
Yeah.
I was just kind of a train wreck for a while.
Yeah.
And there was just one night I was hanging out with all my drug buddies and we did some blow and I was like, this sucks. I don't know what I'm pursuing here because I feel like there's some feeling I think I'm chasing that I'm not really getting and I'm going to go home. And that was it. I just never went back.
Yeah.
And it's been like, I don't even know, 6 years now, I think.
Right on. Yeah. No, that's good. I'm glad you didn't. I'm glad that there isn't like I was sleeping in the Port Authority bus terminal.
Right. I woke up in the hospital. Yeah. I didn't have a great story like that.
Yeah.
I just went, oh hey, wait, fuck this, and that was it.
Yeah. Well, and you can put all of your fuck this into like other things and all that energy into being Schaefer's dude. That's fucking great. Because I am eternally like I don't know if you've had this. I am eternally at war with like the goofy side of myself, and then also the like brooding, like wants to listen to Adam's song 50 times in a row kind of thing, like the. Like raining blood on the way to work.
Yes, yes.
Blood to work or whatever.
Sure.
So, because I want to touch on this and a couple other things before we close it out.
Okay.
Although I have been loving this conversation.
This has been great,
dude. And thank you.
I can't say every time if I say that in an interview, it's just going to go south now. So I'm going to say this has been fun. But I hope you have some.
Yeah, we've been doing.
I hope there's some good revelations in this last portion.
Yeah. I think we're doing all right because I've had to like claw myself out of and compared to other people, my life has not been as hard, but I've definitely had like moments where I've had to like fight against myself to continue being productive, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah, that rings so familiar. Yeah, those periods aren't quite so great where you have to like kind of challenge yourself to continue to create the thing that ostensibly gives you a sense of purpose and joy. Yeah. And also, if your own instincts the ones you want to avoid get in the way of it, like those. I mean, it kind of you said a minute ago where you like toggle between wanting to do kind of this express this serious side of you or doing goofy stuff. Like I have this part of me that's constantly like, you know what? Maybe instead of doing my next record, maybe I'll just like write a book of poetry. And there's a part of me that really wants to do it, and then there's the other part of me that's like, you can't do that, dick. You have to like, that's an indulgence. That's not like a thing that you can really channel your energy into because you have too many songs in the backlog that you have to get out.
Yeah. I know what you mean because like stand up is like the nice immediate payoff the hustle of trying to get the spots is the laborious one, and then I'm like, I'm just gonna work on a screenplay. I got this idea for a screenplay. It's like super dark but emotional and funny all at the same time.
Oh my God, yeah.
The long term burn versus like the short term, like I want to go tell jokes about like food and music, or sometimes like, no, I gotta be talking about important social issues, and I fail every time I try.
I am not even halfway through. I'm working on a record right now. I'm not even halfway through the work done, but Vince Vandal and I have agreed that we're going to get it out in September.
Yeah.
That's not a lot of time for a guy who works really slowly and meticulously. So I've got like 5 months. It's going to be a sweaty summer in the vocal booth of trying to like crank this record out.
Yeah.
And while right now I should be just poring over my notes, I spent the past week building a green screen studio in my bedroom. Because I'm like, I might want to start making some goofy little videos. Not even music videos to promote this material. I just want to like get sidetracked by some other little artistic distractions. And then I'm like, no, you can't do that. You have to write rap songs. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to do that. But God of War just came out.
And it looks really good.
I got it. I bought it like a dick. I went to Best Buy to buy something, an adapter that I needed, so that I could continue working on this record. And then impulse bought God of War on the way out.
Yeah.
Because I'm such a dick and I get in my own way all the time.
Yeah. No, I definitely do as well. But once once you get out of your own way, I just that feeling like from having like, if you have a really good show, or like just the puzzle piece of putting like the aha together.
Oh, yes.
And I had to go to stand up so that I could get fewer people out of my way because I can just get that faster if I'm just telling jokes to an audience or doing a storytelling show and telling a funny story that has emotional peaks and punchlines. I think we were talking a bit earlier.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm glad you got. There's another record in the pipeline.
There is always another record in the pipeline. I for a while I would put out a record, and then I would give myself like some time off. Maybe I wouldn't put out a record for a year or two. There's a 3-year break between two of the records, where I would like ostensibly relax and not think about it. And that doesn't happen anymore because now I'm putting out shorter records and putting them out more frequently. So I basically just crank out a record, and the day that it is like posted on iTunes is the day that I'm like scribbling up notes for the next song.
Yeah.
It's just a never ending process, and I'm going to keep doing until I can't do it anymore.
Awesome.
I just feel like I'm going to maximize as much time as I have where I am still articulate enough, and I still have the energy and the drive to keep doing it, or until like some sort of like latent drug abuse related brain trauma just pops up one day, and suddenly I can't make words rhyme. Then I'll be like, well, at least I got out that last record before this happened.
Totally. To go out like David Bowie. David Bowie was recording his last album while he was dying of cancer.
Yeah. That haunting music video that he shot too.
Oh my God, that video was intense.
What is it, Lazarus? Or the record is Lazarus?
The record's Lazarus. I can't remember what the name of the song is. I just remember the song is like, "Look at me, I'm in heaven." He's kind of floating. No, that's super inspiring for me to hear. Like I just like putting stuff out and just continuously like having something to show for your efforts and your passions. I think
it's just the time that you've spent here.
A record of it.
I haven't really contributed to society at large in any kind of meaningful way, other than giving them a bunch of angry rap songs that make them giggle. And I'll keep doing that. I don't have children. I don't have like my legacy is some like low-key dick jokes set over looped drums, and I will keep making those to grow that legacy as long as I can.
Like, that's beautiful, because in the wake of all that, you'll have a lot of people like me, a lot of other people at the shows who don't have a podcast,
sure,
who are just like, you know what, my day was super stressful. My boss sucks. I live in Bushwick with 6 other people in a 2-bedroom apartment, but goddamn, that Schaffer the Darklord show was really funny.
Those are the people I'm targeting. Those are the people who I'm trying to give that experience to.
Dude, that's beautiful. I had like one question about sample clearance, but I think that's a beautiful way to go to end this.
Oh, good, because I can't tell you. I have never really gone through the proper channels to clear samples, and so basically my clearance of samples is these days I try to use them as few as possible, if none at all, if possible, if at all possible. If I can get away with not using any samples, I will. If I do use samples, I try to make the records free so I can get and put a bunch, concentrate them on one free record so I can get away with it. My other strategy is to just put it on the record and cross my fingers that I don't get caught. And that's what I've been doing so far.
Excellent. That's kind of what I that answers my question.
One of these days, Van Halen's people are going to come for me.
That would mean that my show got really big, so I hope that I can cause you that problem. I'm
great.
kidding.
Yeah, that would be great. And that's another part of this legacy I'm talking about. If I get in some kind of trouble, then these little trails of my existence that I've left around may be beneficial to the people that still have access to it.
Awesome, man. Well, dude, Schaffer, thank you for doing this. I feel like I could talk to you for hours, but I know we gotta wrap up here. And if you ever if you ever think, I need live bass or acoustic guitar on a song, you got my number.
That is absolutely within the realm of possibility, especially because we don't live all that far apart.
No, we don't. We're like you're a guy in the neighborhood to me.
I am a guy in the neighborhood now.
That's awesome, dude.
Anyway, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. That guy is solid. I really enjoyed talking with him, and really inspiring to talk to someone whose work I've admired for so long, and to kind of connect with him on a personal level. And hopefully, if you guys heard, hopefully when the new record comes out, if he needs guitar, I get to play on that, because that would be a dream. So thank you guys so much for listening. If you like the show, please feel free to rate and subscribe on iTunes. It helps me out a lot. You can also listen to me on Stitcher. And again, if you're able to come out May 9th to the Sidewalk Cafe at 8 p.m., it's a free storytelling comedy show with no cover, just a 2-drink minimum to support the venue. And I hope to see you guys there. And I hope to be doing some more cool things with this podcast in the future. So thank you guys again for listening. Check out Schaffer The Darklord's music on his website and on Bandcamp and on iTunes. And I will see you guys next week between Awesome and Disaster. Take care, everybody.